For provocation, brother.
All right.
That's what that's called. Let me kind of add a little bit to what Brother Sarnetta just said, and I hope y'all can grab what I'm saying, you know, in the spirit in which it's given. I think about 6 to 8 months ago, I started trying to broaden my challenge, Brother Sarnetta, to people beyond the Bible believing. I know that Christianity's done a job on us, okay? But when I say Bible, then I'm talking just to those people who believe in the Bible. You see what I'm saying? The question that Brother Sarnetta just asked can be broadened to say not only Bible, the Quran, the Torah. You see what I'm saying? So what we need to do is, and taking his question is, you know, what happened to all of the people who died before religious literature, period, came on the scene? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
That's just
yes,
what
sir.
you're saying, right?
Yes,
you know,
sir.
because whatever religion you claim to believe or advocate, man, you know, all of that was, your mind was shaped by the literature of that so-called belief system. You know? And we need to understand, we need to be delivered from religion. Period. Not just Christianity. Not just Islam. Not just Judaism. Religion. What is religion? Religion is nothing more than a cultural deification of an idea for the purpose of controlling your behavior. That's all it is. And you need to step away from that. Now, scratch that, scratch that. Some of us need to step away from that. Let me correct what I'm saying to y'all. I ain't lying to y'all. I am sorry that I set some people free.
Oh, snap.
I mean that with everything in me, man. A brother who I love dearly, who worked right by my side. To this day, I am so sorry I ever opened his eyes. Because the religion that he was in, that I set him free from, was his governor. Do y'all follow what I'm saying? The religious beliefs and doctrines that he held to was his paradigm of behavior. And as a result of believing in these religious doctrines, he lived a certain way. He conducted his deportment in a certain way. Once he found out that everything he had been taught was a lie, that brother lost his mind. I mean, here's a brother who was an upstanding brother, man. He got out there and started drinking, got out there and started smoking, went and impregnated a couple of sisters. I mean, he just, all of his, what's the word I'm looking for? His structure went out the window, man. You follow what I'm saying? And it's really deep, man, because you'd be surprised how many people in the church, their heart is just as messed up as it can be. Okay? The only thing that's keeping them centered is the structure that they've been given that they got to operate in. Yes. And that's why you hear folks say, child, you better be glad I'm saved. That's why they say stuff like that. You better be glad if I wasn't saved, I'd whoop. Now what that means is their heart. That's what they want to do in their heart anyway. But the structure that's been given to them, they've been told, if I whoop, I'm going to hell, and I don't want to go to hell, so I'm going to let you fly. You follow what I'm saying, people? Yeah. So I'm really sorry that I awakened some people, because they need that structure to get through life in a productive way. You know?
Okay, we're going to take 2 more questions. We have a young brother coming up. There's one other person besides him. And just in listening to the comment the doctor just made, the question is, can you handle freedom?
Ooh, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, can you really, I know we want to get free, want to get free. What do we do when you get free? Can you handle the responsibilities of freedom? Just like you know about the lotto deal, some people get 5 million, next you know they're not just broke, they depressed, they owe 10 million. So a lot of times we pray for things and work for things and get it and not really psychologically prepared to conduct ourselves once we receive those. So maybe that's one of the questions. Are you all really ready for freedom? And your name.
Peace, Brother Bray.
Peace, my brother.
Brother Angel from the Universal Zulu Nation, and I would like to know what or who were the Dravidians?
I don't know. I've read on it, but I haven't done enough research on that, brother, to answer that question. You know, so I don't want to give you my limited speculation on that, or the limited research. That's not something I've really done research into. Okay? All right.
Enough questions, sis? Okay, any question?
Hi.
Good evening again, Pastor Hagins. Javita Irving from Brooklyn, New York. And being raised in a Christian environment, we all know that, you know, the biggest control topic is really about heaven and hell.
Yes.
Okay? We've all, that's been, you know, pressed into us. Right. Had the heaven and hell concept. What is your knowledge of what heaven and hell really is?
Oh, right.
Because it's been,
now that's a
we
good
all
question.
look at it as like a physical place sometimes that you get transformed to. I mean, it's taught in so many different religions of what it is. What had you come to the realization about what heaven and hell really is?
Okay, now you asked me two questions. I'm going to answer them both. First question was, what do I think heaven and hell is? Second was, what is the context? And then what do I think the context is? Well, let me answer the first question. And I've always wanted to know how people could describe for us what hell was. But no one ever came back to tell us. No one has ever come back from heaven to tell us what heaven is like. So, in my scientific, analytical, left brain mind, I've come to this conclusion, okay? Etymologically speaking, since we deal with this book called the Bible or other religious books that use these terms, in the Bible, the word hell comes from the word Hades, which simply means the grave. And when I mean it literally, the grave, the place that they put your body in the ground. Okay, in the Bible, that's what the word hell means, the grave. In the Old Testament, it was the word Sheol, which simply meant the grave, but two compartments to it. It had a compartment for the people who died and they were evil, and the compartment for people who died and they were righteous. Okay, now, in the New Testament, it's grave, period. Okay, because this guy, Jesus, supposedly got rid of the other compartment. Okay? Now, let's get out of the Bible for a moment. Let's talk about it. Our ancient African ancestors also taught this concept that was copied and put into the Bible. But as much respect as I have for our ancient Egyptian ancestors, guess what? Not one of them ever died and went to hell and came back either. Okay? And not one of them ever died and went to heaven and came back. Yet, it is all over Kemet, Egypt, about the judgment scene. You see, all that's in reliefs everywhere, the judgment scene. In fact, the whole concept that we were taught about the great white throne judgment of God, that comes from the judgment hall of Ma'ahi, okay? Which is thousands of years before something called Christianity came on the scene. In this concept, it shows and it depicts that a person who has lived a life of right balance, lived a life of ma'at, truth, justice, harmony, balance, reciprocity, right order of things. A person who has lived a life of ma'at, when they die and they stand before the judgment seat of Osiris, which becomes the judgment seat of Christ in the Bible, that their heart is placed on the scales on one side and the feather of ma'at is on the other side. And if your heart is heavier than the feather of ma'at, or the feather of truth, justice, then you go to what the ancient Africans called Amenta, which became hell in the Bible. Well, again, how do they really know that that's what happened? Nobody went there to come back. So it is a concept. It is a concept of eternal punishment or eternal reward. That's all it is. Okay? It's a concept that if you have lived a good life, you're going to experience peace with the Almighty. If you've lived a bad life, then the devourer, all right, that you see in the judgment scene picture, it's a crocodile, a leopard, and a bear. made of a